gotta say, I'm pretty excited about this one. This was my grandfather's motor, as a matter of fact. I pulled it out of my mom's garage, which I know for a fact hasn't ran probably, I'm gonna say upwards of 20 years, 25 years. And I thought it'd be a good idea to get this out. Let's tear into this thing and see if we can't get it to pop off today and throw it on the old Zodiac with holes in it and take it out on a lake. Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, it's a Honda. It should be fine, except for I've noticed it's been dripping oil for days just sitting here. That's great. All right, let's dig into it. I think the first line of attack is going to be, let's pop the cover and see if we got any houses in there, rodents, skeletons, hay, I don't know, whatever's in there. Let's get this cover off. You know, I haven't even checked. Do we have any fuel? / tarnish? There's a little bit in there, unfortunately. Although the tank is plastic, so that's good. That'll slow down on the rust. So, all right, let's get this top off. Let's see. Let's see what we got. What is it? Oh, sure. Huh. Actually, doesn't look that bad in here. So, let me just stay. Sure. There's the. Take a look. Doesn't look too bad. Is the carb stuck? Let's see, where's the throttle on this thing? Well, not stuck. It's free. That's great news. I'm guessing this is a choke. Choke engaged. Also good news. That seems to be fine. Looks pretty clean in here. Well, don't see. Is there an air filter on this thing? Don't see one. Let's pop the sparkulator out and see what that tells us. See what we're dealing with in the cylinder there. All right, let me grab something to get that on a minute. I'll be right back. All right, guys, got to be careful here because I got this motor set up on this makeshift, stand held up by water-soaked particle board, some rusty nails and screws, and some scrapped 2x6s. So she's barely hanging on, but as long as we don't move it too much, hopefully we'll be okay. Well, what size would this be? It's going to be a little guy. Bigger than that. Oh, she's bigger than I thought. There it is. Throw an extension. That's got kind of a strange angle on it there. Let's see what this sparkulator is going to tell us here. Let's see what flavor we got. Oh, she's in there with all the torques. Doesn't look. This must have been. I know it's a low hours motor because I remember as a kid. Oh yeah, it don't look. It's not bad. It's wet. It's got gas. I did pull it over just to make sure that the motor was free, just real slow. I wonder if that carburetor would just. I wonder if that carburetor's okay. She's burning rich. Anyway. Yeah, she's rich, but that's good news. No rust. It doesn't look like it got hot or anything like that. And it looks. This is the Champion CJ14. Thought that was a Jeep. Anyway. Well, let's do this. Let's see. This has got electronic ignition, so it's either going to work or it's not. No points. Let's just put the spark plug in and try to turn this thing over and see if we get spark. I guess we'll do that. If we do, that'd be great. And then let's just throw some fuel down the app and see what happens. Maybe it'll bark off real quick. I know I need to check the oil. Let's do that too, in case it does bark off, because it's been dripping. And I think it's just what's left in the, I left it for a day or two on its side, and I think it just filled the exhaust up with oil. I think that's where it's dripping out of. But, all right, let's find a spot. Will this just, you think will that be enough there? Can I just hold it there? The trick's gonna be, can I turn this motor over without it falling off my makeshift stand? Probably not. Just cause me more problems. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, I see something. I got spark. Not that time. Thought I did. Oh, there we go. I saw a blue spark. It might be weak. Let me clean this plug up a minute with some brake clean. All right, just gonna hit it with the brake clean a minute. Nothing fancy here, just wipe it off a minute. We know it sparks. We don't, it looks like it might have oil and fuel because it was wet when I pulled it. I had pulled it a couple times just, like I said, to make sure it was free. Engine wasn't locked up. Engine is low miles, I know that because my grandfather didn't use it all that much. I remember him using it, and they had a little, boat and outrunner boat. He used it, and and then they didn't really use it all that much, and it just sat. So it's a low mileage, and it was always stored indoors, which is going to be in our favor here. I think that's good enough. Pop this back in, see what happens. Boy, this thing is just caked with oil. Got the spark plug back in. Let's, everything is just filthy caked. I don't understand how that is possible. Maybe it was raining more than I remember. Oh, well, that could explain it. It's like filled for 3 motors. It's completely overfilled, which is scary because it's been dripping for days and it's still way overfilled. I guess we'll just see if it pops off a minute. And if it does, we'll do an oil change on it. There's fuel in there, but not much. Let me dump a little more down there. And maybe a little Barrowmans. And let's see if it'll pop off. Being a little bit optimistic based on the history of this motor and what the plug looked like, and we have spark. I'm going to dump a little B12 vitamins down this yap here in case it does help clean anything up. Not too much to start. We'll dump more down once we know it runs, but I'm going to mix that flavor with some old stale fuel I got from something else. So, oh yeah, there's oil mix in there for sure. That should be plenty to tell us what we need to know. This thing needs a good bath. Hopefully it kicks off. And then there's just oil all over this. Cobwebs. I don't even understand it. Give her some choke. Put it to, it says start. And we got, is there a fuel? There is a fuel on off, but it doesn't have the label on it anymore. Don't know which way. So we'll start that way. See what happens. All right, first attempt to start. And if it does run, I got to kill it right away because I don't have it in any water or anything. And I think there is a small pump in there for the out drive. It's air cool, but I think the drive is water cool. All right, see what happens. I got to be careful because I don't want this to fall off. You know. Oh! Are you kidding me? It was like the third pull, or 1.5 real pulls because I can't pull it on this thing. It fired right off. Yes! And I saw the prop was spinning, very slow. Yes! All right. What a good old motor this is. Unbelievable. Look at it just smoking down there. Yes. All right. All right. First thing I want to do is I'm not going to try starting it anymore or do anything without getting some water in there. But let's get the oil out of this because you know that's 20 plus years old. We'll drop that. I'll put some new oil in it. Let's get the gear oil. Let's check that down below. And I think I have some fresh stuff that's like 10 years old. You know, put that in it. Get some water underneath it and fire it up for real and let it run and get warm and see what happens. So, all right, oil change first. All right, so I think first line, I got my old oil pan down here and I'm guessing here's my fill. And I'm thinking there is, looks like maybe a 10 millimeter here. I'm gonna pull this out, hoping that's the drain. I don't see anywhere else that I can get to easily to try first. So let's start there. Let me get a 10 mil, I think it is. Find my 10 mil. That's usually what all this stuff is. Yeah, let's see. Yep. I want to try not to get it all over me here. Make sure this is. Don't need an oil bath. Come on. No, nothing. All right, it didn't work. Let's see what else we can figure out. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do here on the back of the engine here, there's a couple Phillips screws and a cover here. You got the drain for the bowl here for the carb. There's a bunch of oil that's been dripping through here. So let's take this cover off, see what the oil is, and maybe our drain plug is actually underneath this cover. So let's do that in a minute. Well, I looked and looked, there's no drain plug on it, but we're not at a complete loss. We know now that we definitely have a carburetor that's gonna need some new gaskets because it's leaking. Once I took off that bottom piece there, there's just nowhere to drain the oil. And so I went on the old interwebs and yeah, you drain it where you fill it, basically. You just tip it. That's a little disappointing, you know, but a little more of a hassle, but we can still do it. We're gonna do it. Let's drain the oil out. I'll tip it on its side best I can, spill half of it in the container, hopefully, and dispose of that properly. And get some fresh oil in it. Then I think I'm gonna skip the carburetor right now because I'm lazy. And we're gonna go right down to the gear lube. Let's check the gear lube, refill that. So we got fresh oil. We know we got a good spark plug with spark. We got good gear lube. And we have a leaky carburetor. Story of my life. What is it with Hondas? Like, you got the Honda leaks, the carburetor leaks, this carburetor leaks. Still runs great. Got fire hazards everywhere. So, all right. It helps too when you do this that it's just the whole engine's full of, it's got oil, so it's slippery. Yeah. No, that's not good either. That's what we're dealing with. All right, here we go. Don't make a mess. And there it goes. Ooh, she's dark. She's a little, she's well used, I guess is what I'm saying. Sure. Yep. I don't see much. I got most of it anyway. Ah. That was easy. I'm getting a headache from the fumes of the gas oil mix. I don't know. I might be dehydrated. It's probably dehydration. Few too many wobble pops last night, and firework fumes. Because you know it's that time of year. That's what you do. You like fireworks. It doesn't look too bad. It's pretty thin, and that's because I think it's got definitely got gas in there. So that could have been from leaking on its side, laying on its side. Funny enough, I saw this, where is it here? Oh, yeah, right here. Do not store it any other way except for these two ways here. I did just the opposite. So I'm guessing that's why I got oil going everywhere. Who would have known? Okay, so I think if I'm looking at this right here, we should have, yep, there's our oil fill. We want to fill that about halfway. So let me go find some good used oil and fill it back in this thing. All right, well, I don't have any 40 weight, but I do have 30 weight. It's asking for 1040. So I split the difference and just, no, that doesn't work either, but that's what I have. And about 1/4 of a quart. I don't know how much it needs. This is what I got. So this is the flavor it's going to get. A thirsty little thing. I couldn't see it in the window here. It's so clear. The old oil was so black. I was looking for something, and it's so clear. I can see it now. But yeah. Anyway. Okay, you're gonna get the old back muscles back going here again. Dump some of this out because I got way too much in there. All right, we got the oil changed. Fresh oil in this bad boy. Still have a leaky carburetor. I turned the fuel off and it's finally stopped dripping gas, so we need to address. But before we do that, I've had this for 10 years. Actually, I don't think it's even been opened. But anyway, it's lower unit oil, high velocity. Basically, it's 90 weight, 80, 90 weight. And how you want to do this is go ahead and open your drain. There'll be 2 plugs on your lower unit. And this one's extremely small. If you're working on a big boat, they could be much further apart, obviously. Proportional. Open up your bottom drain. You're going to start getting some, it's thick. You know, it's not going to just dump out like your basic 30 weight. And once you get that out, go ahead and open your oil level air one up top, and that'll help drain all that out of there. Let her drip for a while. And then you're going to pump in the new oil with one of these handy dandy simple pumps. They're a couple dollars on the Jungle website. From the bottom until you get oil coming out the top with no air bubbles. Once you get to that point, tighten up the top all the way, and then quickly get your bottom, you know, take the pump off and quickly try to get it in there. You're going to lose some every time. You're never going to get it perfect, but they allow for that, you know, so you'll be okay. So let's go do that. All right, so what you're looking for here, well, first is something. You want, hopefully something comes out of here. And what you don't want is a milky white substance, because that means you're getting water in there and you got a bad seal in your lower unit. It's allowing it to collect water. Let's see what we get. comes. You guys can see that, but just dirty. Doesn't look too bad. Now when I open this one, should see it come out a little quicker. Hopefully. It's a real thick oil, obviously. There she goes. She'll drain out of there. Let's let that drain for 5-10 minutes. Make sure we get it all out of there. Refill it and then wipe her down. All right, been about 5 minutes or so. It's just slowly leaking out of there. I think we're good enough for now. You can actually see in there a little bit. The gears, and they look pretty clean. So let's see if we can can't fill it back up. Oh, okay. Yep, that's the wrong size. All right, well, unfortunately, I don't have a pump screw adapter small enough for this. So we're gonna go to plan B. You can cut these off. They have a tapered, cap like you would have like on goo or anything else you buy. Paint, caulk, if you will. I'm going to cut it off at the first nozzle so it's about the right size, and we're just going to use this to squeeze it in there. The downside of that is I'm only going to use maybe a quarter of this bottle, and unfortunately I've never found a good way to store this stuff once you cut these open. Nice thing about the pump is you take this off, screw the pump on, use what you need, take it off and just put the cap bag on just like that, and you're good to go. But you can't do that with this little tiny motor, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to cut this, try to match it up, get it in there, and hopefully fill this thing off. So let's do it. See what happens. Top off a little bit on the top here, just to make sure we got enough in there. I lost quite a bit there. Fine. Okay. Yeah, we make quite the mess with this. She's full. These don't have to be overly torqued, that's why they're large flatheads. Alright, so we have fresh oil, we have spark, good spark plug, we have compression because we got it to pop off, lower unit oil has been changed, still need to address the fuel leak, which I think is just going to be, unfortunately, taking the carburetor apart, putting a quick, cheap gasket kit in it. I think that's all it's going to take. But I think before I get to that point, since we know it runs, let's put it in some water, fire it up, and let's see if the impeller is pumping water, so we know we have a good impeller. Let's let the engine warm up and just see how it does and seals and, see what happens. So let's do that first. Plus, I just want to hear this thing run for a little longer, All right, let's do that and go from there. All right, good news. Found a barrel in the basement, put some water in, got that filled back up on some blocks of wood. Sure, that'll be fine. Also, I found this water pump. That's going right in the boat because we know we need that. Okay, so good news. Let's get this fired up and see what happens. All right, let's see. Fuel on, leaking, good. Start, yep. Choke, sure. Air valve open. All right, first time hopefully running and pumping water in 20 plus years. gas in the bowl because it was leaking. Come on. A little more fuel. Trying. Unfortunately, I don't have enough water in here. It's spitting it all out, but fill it back up and try it one more time. Definitely seems like a carb issue. There's just gas coming out of the back of this. I don't know if it's flooded or... Let's try turning the gas off and see what happens. Interesting. I can smell gas. We definitely have a carb issue, but I've seen enough. It ran there for a good minute or so. Oh, gas. Just pouring out of that thing. Okay, let's figure out how this carburetor comes out, I guess. Alright, let's just dig into this thing. We know we need, we have carburetor issues. We're probably going to have to order some parts for it. So I guess first step will be, can we get it out? And then we'll go from there. It looks like mostly 10 mils up here. We got our throttle, our choke. Looks like our fuel line's down there. How are we mounted in here? I'm going to have to get... Unfortunately, it's like this whole plastic cover cable. All right, listen, I've been fighting this thing for a while. There's a screw here and a screw here, or a nut that comes off these posts that go through the carburetor into the block. I got it loose. I just broke away some of the plastic here to get basically my long needle nose in there. And I still can't get it out of there because we have this plastic frame that goes around and holds the tank and everything's connected. So I think what I'm going to do is just try to access. I'm going to pull the top off here, and it's a little dirty in there. Let's pull this off here, see what this looks like. Underneath the bowl is definitely leaking, so let's pull the bowl and see if we just need a gasket on the bowl. and spray some carb cleaner in it and put it back together and see what happens. Okay. First things first, let's pull this and see what we got. Honestly, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's gas in there, but it doesn't look terrible. I think that's jet right there. Let's pull that out and see what that looks like. Yeah. Doesn't look too bad. I'll get a rag and clean that up a little bit. The gasket looks good. Get some carb cleaner in there a minute. And it doesn't look terrible. There's a little gas in there. I don't know if that's supposed to be there or not. Let's wipe it out a minute. This gum out carbon choke cleaner. Just try to soak up some of this old fuel in here. Maybe. Let me. Maybe not. Let's drain the bowl here a minute. Let me pull the bowl off this thing. Ooh, yeah, that's looking a little crowdy. The bowl. You can see that looks pretty dirty. So we got some issues on the bottom. It looks like on the top though, not too shabby. Bottom of the bowl, it's like got a little needle set in it. That goes into the bottom of, this was completely clogged with tarnish and stuff. I had to actually stick a wire through there and just a bunch of junk came out. So I'm wondering if that has anything to do. I don't know how that works. There's a hole on the side here too. And I'm wondering if it's just to drain the bowl when you're doing transporting it. That's my guess, but I don't know. So anyway, it also could be something to do with the float and everything else under there. So anyway, got that cleaned out. Got all that junk out of there. Well, that's interesting. I don't even see a gasket on this thing. Huh. That don't seem right at all, does it? So, look up in there. Is that a gasket? That's where we're leaking. We're leaking around the bowl rim here. Let me go online a minute and see if I can, there's a gasket or something. I don't have anything to make one. Otherwise I could goop it up real good. Try to put it back on. But there's also a main jet under here and there. You can't see it, but I'm gonna pull that out a minute. Let's see what that looks like. I can see through it. That's the one I just pulled out, but just a bit of corrosion on the bottom. I'm gonna spray some carb cleaner on it just to make sure. Can't hurt. And then spray some down through here again. Well, before we lose it, let's put this back up in the jet and do a little research here and figure out what else it is that we are missing that could be causing this not to run. It has to go back in a certain way. This, I believe. Can only go in one way. That is spotless in there now. So, pretty comfortable with the top of this being fine. So I'm going to put the top back on, and I don't see any damage, anything like that there. So I'm going to go ahead and, so we don't lose anything, put this back in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clean up this bowl here. Try to get all this tarnish out of here. See if there's some type of gasket I'm missing. I'll be right back. All right, there is a gasket set I can get for this, but it's like $16. And honestly, the rest of the carburetor looked okay except for this bowl. I went and took some 80 grit sandpaper and it cleaned up not too bad. I think what I'm gonna do is put a little RTV around the edge here because it looks like there's somewhat of a gasket still in there. And then try to torque it down with all the torque. And let's see if we can stop or at least slow down on the gas. I might end up ordering the $16 kit. Problem with those is it's probably not OEM, and I don't know if it's gonna be much better. So let me see what I got for RTV, and let's try this first. Here's what I have. Seal all. And I use this because it says it's gas and oil resistant. Also says you should wait 6 hours to let it dry, so I did the right thing and gooped it on there. Gave it all the torques and turned the fuel on, and I don't see any leaks as of yet. May have solved our issue, or we blocked the fuel from flowing somehow, which is very possible. So that's slightly good news at the moment. We'll leave that on. I'm going to go ahead and reattach our throttle cable, our air box, because we didn't need to take any of that off apparently. And then we'll put it back together and fire it up, and hopefully it does just that. So let me do that a minute. Probably a bad idea, but why doesn't a guy just cut some of this plastic out of here so I can actually, you know, get a wrench on something? Just, I don't understand what they expect the guy to do. Delete. Get out of here. Oh yeah, way better. All right, now we've got the same issue here. Can't get nothing in there. How am I gonna do that one? See what I'm doing there? I'm trying to wallow out a spot big enough just to get a guy's mitts in there and try and make this a little more serviceable without making it worse. Voila. She's back on. Let's see how this goes. Yep, good. Okay. Throttle cable back on quick. Let's fire this bad boy back up and see what it runs like now. Alright, good morning. It's the next day. Unfortunately, my camera died. The battery died on my camera. Slash phone. Slash I use personal computer device. I was able to fire it back up and fired right up, ran great, and turned it off, went to restart it, started right back up. Then I let it sit for a little bit, and all of a sudden I had fuel dripping right out the air filter area. So we have carb issues still, and I should have known this, but it's just flooding itself out. That float is not floating, or it's not sealing somehow. So you guys are probably screaming at me the whole time, like, you idiot, it's flooding itself, and that's exactly what it's currently doing. So I think the orifices and everything magical, you know, sorcery stuff in the carburetor work, except for the float. So I'm gonna tip the motor up, try to pull that bowl off again, dig into that. Let's pull the float out. Let's make sure it floats. Check the needle. I didn't do any of that. Stupid. I should have. I didn't even think of it. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, got the bowl off. There's some gunk. Should have done this, but you know, I was in a hurry. Let's see if we can get this out of here. Oh yeah. All right, soaked it up real good with carb cleaner. Good news is I don't hear any liquid in here, so I don't think it's leaking. So I suspect maybe it was just corroded up a little bit. And maybe just not sliding in there very well. So I'm gonna clean up the it's all plastic, which is actually kind of nice. I'm wondering if it just wasn't in the slide very well. A little spring action on there. Springing. It'll be pretty. It does have a little corrosion. I'm trying not to get too aggressive. I don't want to ruin the point on there. I'm just trying to gently clean it a little bit. Alright, I pulled the bowl off and got the needle out and everything. We looked at it. Unfortunately, it didn't look that bad. It's kind of a flimsy setup being all plastic, and I'm wondering if it's warped and not quite doing the thing. So, put it back on. Turn the fuel on. We got fuel in the bowl. Let's pull it, get it running again, hopefully. And then just see what happens if we still flood out, or if we did something maybe by just cleaning it up and spraying carb cleaner in there. Hopefully. All right, let's see if she floods out. I mean, it runs perfect, except for all the fuel coming out of it. All right, it's been about 3 minutes or so. I don't see any fuel leaking yet. Let's just try to fire it again. See if it fires right back up. All right, perfect. First pull. No gas. I think we are gonna call that good. I'm gonna turn the gas off anyway after I'm done running it, but I didn't want it just dripping when I'm running it, and it's not. So I think we just had a little bit of corrosion. You know, one thing I didn't think about is this is such a tiny trolling motor that any little particle in there or anything will really affect this thing. So maybe we must have moved something out of there, cleaned it out. So we're gonna call that a win for now. Good enough. The other thing I want to do here is I bought an external tank. This doesn't have a fuel pump on it, but the Honda generators, the inverters you buy, you can get these adapters. I bought one here off the websites. And what you do is you replace the cap with this, like this, and then you got to get a fitting, which I'm waiting to show up yet. And you can hook an external tank with a primer bulb, give you some more capacity, and we're going to do that. So I don't have the fitting yet. Let's just make sure that this actually fits. Threads on here, it says it will. It does. There we go. loose. It does, but it doesn't. She's a little loose. It fits, but it's not exactly right. Interesting. I wouldn't want to store it with this on here, but I think it'll be good enough to run it. Let me show you the tank I got. I bought this from a guy for $10. Came with the hose on it, and it had $15 of bad fuel in it, so good deal. But anyway, with the adapter, Alright, well that's going to do it for this episode. I think we got ourselves a nice little motor here. It cleaned up real nice, as you can see. Really surprised. Too bad it's got some of these scuffs from storage and stuff over the years on these decals, but the plastic isn't cracked. All the oil came off. The blue and the propeller and the yellow, everything just came right back around. So I think it'll be a fun little motor to have, a little trolling motor on the inflatable. Putts around the lakes, head to the beach, stuff like that. So we'll get a video of it running on the boat here shortly. But I appreciate you guys all very much. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell me what you think. And I read every post that you guys put on there. We'll see you next time. Thanks.